Hello and welcome to Daily Prayer, today for March 17th, 2023. Glad that you are with me today. Today is St. Patrick's Day, also Campfire Girls Day, Dr. Patient Trust Day, Evacuation Day in Massachusetts, and National Corned Beef and Cabbage Day. So glad that you are with me today. Hopefully that music isn't too loud. Let's go ahead and get started. All of our prayers today come from Patrick of Ireland. Lord, be with us this day, within us to purify us, above us to draw us up, beneath us to sustain us, before us to lead us, behind us to restrain us, around us to protect us. Amen. Our reading for today, down a little bit, is from Matthew chapter 16, starting with verse 13. Listen for God's word to speak to you. Skip to the next one. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." Jesus said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, our reading for today. We've just had this sort of interaction between Jesus and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They ask yet again for a sign. They have gone across the boat. Jesus sort of laments about the yeast of the Pharisees. The disciples kind of don't get it, right? And now they come to a place called Caesarea Philippi. Well, that does not sound like a Jewish town, because it's not. It's Caesarea, right? Named after Caesar. And this is a sort of enclave. This is a very Roman city, sort of in this particular region. So Caesarea Philippi had been built up so that it was, it had all of the amenities that a Roman citizen might be looking for. Things like baths and temples and theaters, all these sorts of things, right? So it's not a place that the Jewish folks would go all that often. But it's interesting and it's very important that Jesus is asking these questions and getting this answer here in this particular place. Matthew is telling us this for a very particular reason. So, what's going on here? Well, the Jewish people at this time are under Roman occupation. They have now gathered at sort of the local capital of that Roman occupation to have this conversation. This is a deeply political conversation. Jesus says, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" Who do they say the human one is? Now, there's some sort of double speak that's going on here, or multiple things that are being referenced. Son of Man is one of the titles that Jesus sort of takes for himself. There is a connotation that it is the human one, right? The one who is human, right? Stressing Jesus' humanity. There's also a reference to the book of Daniel, sort of apocalyptic, revelatory writings of Daniel, of this vision of the Son of Man, which gets connected to this idea of Messiah, anointed one. Because the people are waiting for this future leader, this future king, this son of David, who's going to come in and take over everything, and they think restore their national sovereignty. They think to reign again in Jerusalem, and they'll be their own people, and maybe they get a turn now to be the empire. They get to be they get a chance to be Babylon or Rome or Greece and just sort of take over everything and rule over everybody else, right? That's not what Jesus is doing, but that's what there's some expectation for that. And so as Jesus talks about himself as the Son of Man, he's also using this language that is connected to this sort of divine personality, this one who will come to bring God's reign. Okay. Who do you say that the Son of, or who do people say that the Son of Man is? So now we're getting into interpretation. Who do you think the Son of Man is in this thing? And the disciples answered, well, some say John the Baptist, right? He was a great teacher. He did all these things. Perhaps he will come back and be this Son of Man who will return. Others say Elijah. Elijah did not die, right, according to the text, but was taken up in a fiery chariot. So maybe he will return as this Son of Man. Others still say that it's Jeremiah or one of the other prophets will come and return. And Jesus says, okay, that's what they think, but what do you think? Who is the Son of Man? And Simon Peter, who I always say, right, is the first to speak and not always the first to think. He says, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Again, we hear this and we go, oh yeah, obviously, right? And in fact, Matthew's gospel has told us that Jesus is the Messiah from the very beginning. But for someone in 30-ish AD, a Jewish person to say Messiah, there are definite political overtones to that. What Peter is saying is not that you are the Son of Man, as Jesus has referred to himself. He specifically ties Jesus to Messiah, the anointed one, the Son of David, the one who is going to come and rule on our behalf and be our king and perhaps even be the head of our empire, because it's our turn now. You're going to make Jerusalem great again. Also, he says, you are the Son of the living God. And part of that is this talking about this deep connection that Jesus has with the living God, right? But Peter's also borrowing language from Caesar himself, who according to the Roman Senate was declared to be son of a god, right? Divine in very nature. That was Augustus Caesar. Julius Caesar, if I'm getting my Caesars correctly. The current Caesar who is serving, at this time is probably Augustus, the son of that god, right? So there is a Jewish sort of overtone of Son of God, that he is this one who has great connection with the living God, and Son sort of coming from. This is, the Psalms today. I have begotten you. You are mine. I claim you as my son, right? And anoint you. That's this sort of idea, but also bringing along this Roman understanding of God's divine presence here on earth in a person, just like Caesar. So this, again, is a deeply political statement. He says, you're in charge of everything. You are Lord. You are Caesar. You're the king that is going to come, right? Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. You couldn't have gotten this right by yourself, frankly, but you almost stumbled upon the correct answer." Perhaps in this he means you are saying this in a particular way that has a particular meaning. You're not right, but you've got the titles right, at least, right? Interesting also that he calls him Simon, son of Jonah, after he has just talked about the sign of Jonah. I wonder if there's any connection there. But Jesus then says to Simon, "Now you're named Peter." We heard both names before, just to clarify. You are now named Peter. Now, before this point, Peter was not a name. Peter comes from the Greek Petros, rock. So he names him Rock. He names him Rocky, right? And he says, "Now I'm going to name you Rock, and on this rock I will build my church." It's a pun, right? On this rock, whatever that is, maybe it is that statement. Our Roman Catholic siblings look at this and say this is the establishment of the Pope, this sort of seat of Peter that Peter will eventually take. And on this rock of the Pope, my church will be established. Also, he says, "I will build my church." Now, in a Jewish conception, there was no such thing as a church. There were synagogues. That's a place to gather. There were people who would go to a temple. There are, as our ideas of priests, there's an idea of sort of the people gathered. And that's getting closer to what this word means. Ecclesia at this time actually had more of a connotation of the people in a city like Caesarea Philippi, those who own land and are able to have a vote. It's the assembly of those people to decide on how they're going to vote, how they're going to be as a city and as a kingdom. That is the word that Jesus used, this assembly, this community, these people gathered together for a specific purpose. It eventually becomes the word that we use for our gatherings in worship and in service. But the word here is, again, a political one. It is the citizens gathered in order to vote. So I'm going to build my assembly on this rock, this statement. I'm going to build my assembly. And the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. Perhaps you have heard it as the gates of hell. Hades is actually more appropriate. The gates of Hades was a cave not far from Caesarea Philippi, where all sorts of cultic practices that were a little bit even out of the mainstream for the Roman folks. That's where they would worship and do their things, and they would have these make these fire sacrifices in this cave, right? And the smoke would billow out of it. It was pretty challenging looking, right? And Jesus says, this assembly will be able to overcome that thing over there. This assembly is going to overcome even Rome. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. I'm going to give you authority, and here's the authority. The things that you bind up on earth are going to be bound in heaven. The things that you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. I am giving part of my authority over to you so that you can figure out how this is going to work. Think about that. That God has given authority to human beings on how the kingdom is going to work. And the things that we do and the things that we sort of hold and say, no, we're not going to have part of anything to do with that. And the things that we release and say, yes, these are the things that we need to be doing. Those are the ways that heaven will work. That is spectacular and humbling. I just, last night I finished this wonderful short story by Olivia Butler. It might not be Olivia. Yeah, I think it is. Anyways, short story. And the short story was God pulls this person, a black woman, and out of her life and says, I want you to make everything better. Humanity is not headed towards a good place. You're going to destroy yourselves. So what would you do to change things? And God gives sort of like this, feedback on things. First she says, oh, well, I think that everybody should, I think overpopulation is the problem. So everybody will only have two children, max. And God says, okay, well, I'm not sure if that's going to work because, after a couple of generations, there's not going to be enough people left because there's going to be natural sort of ways that people are going to die, and it's just that doesn't work. And that sort of thing. But there's this interesting element of it where God in this story is very much like, I don't know what you're going to do. And it's really exciting. What can you come up with, right? Because I could come up with all sorts of ideas, but what are you going to come up with? And how do you want to live in that world? It's this wonder and this excitement of God that we don't really think about. Perhaps that's what's going on here with these keys of the kingdom. God is giving us authority to see what we'll do with it. Just an interesting thought, something to think about. So, Jesus calls the disciples together to really claim and understand, what does it mean? Who is Jesus? They grapple with these sort of ideas of Messiah, of Son of God, of the human one, Son of Man. And what the disciples think about it, and what the other people in their day think about it, and what Jesus is thinking about it. And those are very different things. And so I think that's probably why Jesus says to them, don't tell people that I'm the Messiah. Because I'm going to have more conversation about what that doesn't mean with them than what that does mean. It's going to lead to a lot of confusion. So let's just not tell people that I'm the Messiah. You notice that Jesus doesn't actually take on the title of Messiah, which is interesting. It is one that is given to him by his disciples, by us, by Matthew. But Jesus himself does not say, yes, I am the Messiah. Good job. You've gotten it right. Don't tell anybody about it. He just says, on this statement, I'm going to make my assembly, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I'm giving you authority, and let's downplay that Messiah title, right? He doesn't actually take it for himself. Interesting. So that was a lot, right? And a lot of that was against our normal reading, right? Because there is certainly a strain of interpretation that says that that to be religious is not to be political. That politics has nothing to do with our faith, that all of that sort of stuff, and we don't talk about those things. Maybe take a little bit of time and think about why that is. Why is it that we would be discouraged from talking politically and religiously and putting those two together? Who are the people who might be interested in that sort of thing? What would be the benefit of those with political power to say to those who have religious affiliations, part of which actually include some fairly, what we would call political statements and ideas and aspirations? What would be the benefit of those in political power to say, no, you don't get to talk about politics and connect those? What is the benefit of those with religious authority saying, don't talk about politics? Don't talk about the political side or the interpretations of this thing, right? What are the benefits of those? What are the downsides? And as we consider those things, what does that make us think? Today we're celebrating the life of St. Patrick, a man who was stolen, kidnapped as a pseudo-Roman citizen and taken to the wilds of Ireland. Eventually escaped and then came back to Ireland to bring the good news of the gospel. To claim it for the kingdom of God, not necessarily for the Roman kingdom, but for the church. To actually bring the good news. To tell people there's a different way of living. There are some political overtones to that. So, consider those things. And when you would like to, we can gather together. Oh my goodness, I have talked a long time today. But when you're ready, we'll gather together in prayer. Today we have this breastplate of St. Patrick. I bind unto myself today the strong name of the Trinity, by invocation of the same, the three in one, and one in three. I bind this day to me forever, by power of faith, Christ's incarnation, his baptism in the Jordan River, his death on the cross for my salvation, his bursting from the spiced tomb, his riding up the heavenly way, his coming to the day of doom, I bind unto myself today. I bind unto myself today the virtues of the star-lit heaven, the glorious sun's life-giving ray, the whiteness of the moon at even, the flashing of the lightning free, the whirling winds' tempestuous shocks, the stable earth, the deep salts sea, around the old eternal rock. I bind unto myself today the power of God to hold and lead, God's eye to watch, God's might to stay, God's ear to hearken to my need. the wisdom of my God to teach, God's hands to guide, God's shield to ward, the word of God to give me speech, God's heavenly host to be my guard. Christ be with me, Christ within me, Christ behind me, Christ before me, Christ beside me, Christ to win me, Christ to comfort and restore me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ in quiet, Christ in danger, Christ in hearts of all that love me, Christ in mouth of friend and stranger. I bind unto myself the name, the strong name of the Trinity, by invocation of the same, the three in one, the one in three. To whom all nature has creation, eternal Father, Spirit, Word, praise the Lord of my salvation. Salvation is of Christ the Lord. Amen. Now let us continue to pray using the words that Christ taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Now may the strength of God pilot us, may the power of God preserve us, may the wisdom of God instruct us, may the hand of God protect us, may the way of God direct us, may the shield of God defend us, may the host of God guard us against the snares of evil and the temptations of the world. May Christ be with us, Christ before us, Christ in us, Christ over us. May your salvation, O Lord, be always ours, this day and forevermore. Amen. Thank you for joining me today for daily prayer. Join me tomorrow for some more. Like this video, share it with someone else, click on the subscription and the notification button, as well as going to our website, johncalvinchurch.org, for more information. Our readings today came from the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible, and our prayers came from St. Patrick, from the Book of Common Worship of the Presbyterian Church USA. You can subscribe to this daily prayer on YouTube or Substack or Spotify. Thank you for joining me. Have a blessed day. We'll see you next time.